You have the idea. You could describe the product in one breath. You know who it's for, and you know it should exist. What you don't have is a team. And somewhere along the way, you absorb the rule that the team is the price of entry. Engineers, a designer, someone for QA. 18 months of payroll before the first dollar. And that rule was true for about 50 years. It stopped being true recently, and quietly. And most people haven't updated. So the plan just sits there in the dock, waiting on money and people it no longer needs. So this is the masterclass on what replaced the team. It's called a stack. It has 3 seats, and the evidence that one person can run it isn't a prediction anymore. It's a scoreboard. This is the stack. For 2 years, the question in AI coding was, which tool wins? Cursor or Claude Code or Codex? Pick your fighter. Place your bet. Every leaderboard, every comparison thread, every best tool of the year post assumed one name walks away with the crown. Then, in the first week of April, the war ended in the strangest way possible. Nobody surrendered. The tools merged into an assembly line. That week, Cursor shipped a rebuilt interface for running fleets of agents in parallel. OpenAI, its supposed rival, published an official plugin that runs inside Anthropic's Claude Code. And the people building serious software stopped choosing and started running all 3 at once, each one in a different seat. And the consensus that came out of it was this: composition over consolidation. You don't pick a winner. You compose a stack. The same way an earlier generation learned to compose Terraform and Docker and Kubernetes, instead of hunting for one tool that did everything. But here's why that's so much bigger than a tooling story. Orchestration. Decides what gets built, splits the work, assigns it. Execution. Builds it, writes the code, runs it, fixes it. And review. Checks it, cross-examines the work before it ships. Now read that again, slowly. Because that isn't a toolbox. It's an org chart. A manager who breaks the plan into tasks. Workers who build, and quality control that checks the work before it goes out the door. That is the exact structure of a software company. And every seat in it, except one, is now occupied by software. The seat left over is the one deciding what's worth building. And that seat is yours. Now, fair question. Is anyone actually running this, or is this a demo? The honest answer used to be, mostly demos. Not anymore. 3 separate scoreboards say the shift already happened. Scoreboard 1, the builders moved. Developers using AI agents as their primary coding interface. Not autocomplete on the side, but the main way the code gets written. Tripled since the middle of last year. 70% of the Fortune 100 now run the Claude ecosystem somewhere in their engineering stack. And in production shops, the standard shape is 3 to 8 specialist agents per system, each with a focused job, wired together. Which means the biggest companies on Earth restructured their engineering around the stack, while the argument about whether it was real was still going on. Scoreboard 2. One person can now move at company speed. In November, an Austrian developer named Peter Steinberger built an agent called OpenClaw as a side project. Not a text generator, an agent that does things. Books the flight, manages the calendar, sends the email. Within 60 days, it passed 145,000 GitHub stars. The fastest growing open source AI agent in history. One person, 60 days. A growth curve that used to require a funded team and a marketing department. And Scoreboard 3. The Solo results stopped being freak events. Stripe's own data says Solo founding is at an all-time high. Chatbase, one person, roughly $50,000 a month within months of launch. PDF.ai, one person, custom GPT, built solo, selling to enterprises. And the pattern behind all of them is the same. One human with taste and direction, a stack doing the work of the missing headcount, and the margins that would have gone to payroll going to growth instead. And then, the people whose actual job is pricing the future noticed. In the first quarter of this year, 81% of all venture funding on the planet, about $242 billion, went into AI. Sam Altman keeps a betting pool with other tech CEOs on the first one-person billion-dollar company. And Dario Amodei asked when a billion-dollar company with a single human employee arrives, answered 2026, and put 70 to 80% confidence on it. Now, you don't have to believe any single one of those numbers. Believe the direction they all point. All right, here's the other column. Because a masterclass that only shows you the highlight reel is an ad. Most solo software still doesn't get rich. The numbers on small software businesses are blunt. About 30% never reach $1,000 a month and quit. Half plateau between 1,000 and 10,000. 15% reach 10 to 100,000, and 5% go past that. So the stack collapses the cost of building. It does not hand you customers. Distribution, trust, and picking the right problem are still the game. And the price of software itself is falling. Early this year saw roughly $285 billion wiped off software company valuations, with revenue multiples collapsing from about 18.6 times at the 2021 peak, down to around 6. And where companies deploy AI seriously, demand for junior developers has already dropped about 40%. The entry-level seat at someone else's company, the one that used to be the safe way in, is the seat the stack replaces first. So when anyone can build a tool in a weekend, a built-a tool stops being a moat. The moat moves to the things the stack can't generate. The audience that trusts you, the data you own, the specific problem you understand better than anyone. And that's not a reason to look away. That's the reason this matters. The safe route and the solo route are converging on the same skill set, whether anyone asked for it or not. Okay, so how do the 3 seats actually get filled? The production pattern is consistent enough now to write down, and nobody starts by building the whole org chart. The stack gets composed 1 seat at a time, in a specific order. Seat 1, execution. 1 agent, terminal or editor, building the thing while you direct. This is where everyone starts and where the reps come from. And the skill being trained isn't typing, it's specification. Saying what you want clearly enough that a very fast, very literal worker builds the right thing. Seat 2, review. And this is the counterintuitive one. The second agent's job is to check the first one. And the research says use a different model than the one that wrote the code. Because the same model reviewing its own work shares its own blind spots. A rival checking it does not. This is also the seat that separates toys from products. Speed was never the hard part of software. Trust is. And then seat 3, orchestration, last, and only when the work genuinely splits. Most solo builds don't need that seat for a long time, and adding it too early is how you get a very fast machine building the wrong thing in parallel. So, notice what the human is doing in every single version of this. Choosing what to build, what good looks like, what ships, what dies. The stack made every other seat cheap, and it made that seat more valuable than it has ever been. For 50 years, the distance between I have the idea and I have a software company was measured in people and payroll. And that distance was the filter. It kept out almost everyone, and it had nothing to do with whether the idea was any good. Well, the filter just moved. The 3 seats a company is made of, the manager, the builders, the checker, now cost about as much as a gym membership, and they never sleep. What they can't supply is the one thing they're all waiting on. A person who knows what's worth building and has the judgment to call it. The team was never the company. The judgment was. And now the judgment is the only seat left. One question this opens, and it's a big one. If the workers are software, what exactly are they worth to the world's economy? The money already voted, $242 billion in 1 quarter. Where that number goes next and what it's really buying is its own story. And that one's coming.